Assalamu alaikum, everybody, and good morning, and welcome to the Q3 2019 results publication and briefing from Grameenphone. Let me remind you at the beginning that those of you who have registered to be on this call have also received a password to be able to indicate their questions in real time so that we can answer them at the end of the formal presentation. All the related materials are on the website, and they should be ready for you at this point. So let's get going. Well, Grameenphone reported a solid financial performance in the third quarter of 2019, despite a very challenging regulatory environment. As an industry, we gained 5.6 million subscribers from the end of 2018, growing by 3.5%, ending with 162.6 million subscribers nationally, as reported by the regulator. During the same time, mobile data users grew by 7.4% to 98.1 million subscribers. Grameenphone gained about 400,000 subscribers, ending with 75.7 million subscribers at the end of Q3. We had a particularly challenging quarter due to the many rifts and challenges we have with the regulator, as a result of which our network rollout slowed down, and we were prevented from offering new products and campaigns. However, we continue to add pre-approved sites to our network, resulting now in 9,300 4G sites in the country. We take pride in being at the frontier of bringing connectivity to the people of Bangladesh, and we will continue to invest in the country to further aid the digital Bangladesh ambition. In the third quarter, we added 1,812 pre-approved 4G sites to our network. We were also recognized as the fastest network in Bangladesh and received the Ookla Speed Test Award for the second consecutive year. We reached 11 million 4G users on our network, and 4G conversion activities are rolling out in areas with newly launched 4G sites. This along with competitive product offers and 4G SIM replacement offers. We not only continue to invest in our network, but we ensure that we are building a sustainable and resilient network. We improved our network downtime during bad weather by investing and replacing old batteries with new lithium-ion batteries on more than 2,500 sites. In quarter three, however, we did experience increased competitiveness, even aggression, on gross adds market shares by the competitors, driven mainly by the increase in supplementary duty to 10% and the SIM tax moving to 200 taka. In order to protect GA market share, we have increased slightly our startup commission in order to be able to respond rationally in an appropriate way to the competitive pressures. Due to the change in supplementary duty, we had to revise our entire product portfolio, and this was initiated in the last quarter. We experienced a prolonged rainy season in Bangladesh, followed by floods which lasted almost 2 months in many areas of the country. This negatively affected our performance mainly in July. And during the Eid holiday in August, we had a prolonged holiday and bad weather. While voice did not benefit from these holidays, we witnessed a significant increase in data usage, giving a big boost in data revenue. This is MyGP, and we want to talk about this because it's an important clue as to how we're modernizing the way we manage our distribution and our relationship with our customers. This is a self-service application which has evolved not only by helping them avail GP services, but it's also a lifestyle app being preferred by many customers. We have a very attractive customer value propositions, and it's a very, very simple app to use. Not only are the basics like recharge in our entire set of minutes and data packs available, we also have different offerings such as 10% bonuses and loyalty points and so on that are on here as well. We've also tied in non-telco apps into this, non-telco services into this app, like Bioscope, directly from within the GP app, my GP app. We continue to offer personalized offers to our valued customers. This is why we see a 100% increase year over year in the active base and sales growth for MyGP. Pardon me. We also engage our customers in MyGP through contextual content. So during the Fani cyclone event earlier this year, we were able to update some of the apps on the phone in real time, providing people with updates on this issue. We've also now worked on connecting blood donors during the recent dengue epidemic in the country, as well as we are catering to the cricket-loving population by providing live streaming cricket, World Cup cricket, I should say. Of course, the regulatory landscape continues to be challenging for us. In an attempt to collect the disputed amount on the BTRC audit claim and ignoring our requests for arbitration, on the 4th of July 2019, the BTRC directed the international gateway operators to reduce GP's bandwidth capacity by 30%. This was subsequently withdrawn on the 17th of July, as it was negatively impacting millions of our customers. However, on the 22nd of July 2019, the BTRC imposed operational restrictions by stopping no objection certificates for approvals on product and services and equipment import. In order to resolve this dispute on July 30th, 2019, two arbitration applications were moved by GP before the Honorable High Court for appointment of a BTRC arbitrator and for injunction against the suspension of the approval of the NOx by the BTRC. In this case, the High Court has yet to give a decision. Meanwhile, on 14th of August 2014, a proposal letter was sent to the BTRC for the withdrawal of the earlier demands based on the 2011 audit and the discontinuation of the earlier cases to remove any perceived roadblock on the current audit demand. This letter remains unanswered to today. On the 26th of August 2019, GP filed a title suit against the audit demand, and on the 28th of August 2019, GP moved an application for injunction to the district court with the prayer to stay the suspension of NOCs and to restrain the BTRC from taking steps on or pursuant to or for the realization or enforcement of the demand which was rejected by the district court. Against the rejection order on the 17th of September 2019, GP filed a civil appeal before the High Court Division. On September 5th, going back, the BTRC issued a show cause notice to GP as to why GP's 2G and 3G licenses should not be canceled. We responded in a timely manner to the show cause notice on the 3rd of October 2019. Forgive me for a moment. Have that water, please. GP has been continuing engagement with the authorities with a view to find a transparent and amicable solution to this story. On the 18th of September 2019, the Finance Minister, in the presence of the Minister of Posts and Telecoms, the NBR Chairman, the BTRC Chairman, and representatives of GP, engaged in the matter in order to pursue a constructive path towards resolving the issue. It was expressed that the BTRC would withdraw the show cause and impositions to resume normal operations immediately, and that GP would suspend its legal efforts to facilitate a transparent process towards an amicable solution. Despite these constructive efforts by the team, including the Minister of Finance, the BTRC has not lifted any of its operational impositions or the show cause notice. On the 17th of October 2019, based on the civil appeal filed earlier by GP, the High Court Division passed an order restraining the BTRC for a period of 2 months from taking any steps on the basis of or pursuant to or for the realization of or enforcement of the demand dated the 2 April 2019. The High Court Division also stayed for a period of 2 months the operation of the BTRC letter dated July 22nd regarding the suspension of the NOCs for importation of equipment, software, the suspension of tariff and service package approvals. This matter is now fixed for a hearing on the 5th of November 2019. I wanted to go through a little bit of detail here so you understand that chronology. Moving on to the tower licensing. GP is currently assessing the possibility of reopening the existing tower writ and also the possibility of challenging the process and the BTRC proposed agreement template. GP has followed the directive of the BTRC in relation to towers to the letter. We've run an RFP process starting late last year. And on July 2019, we concluded a service level agreement known as an SLA with one of the 4 licensees, E.co, and in compliance with the tower sharing guidelines, E.co has submitted the negotiated service level agreement to the BTRC for vetting. Despite many requests and 2 months having passed, the BTRC has yet to vet the SLA that we've negotiated in a commercial way between 2 parties with E.co. In fact, contrary to the current guidelines, the BTRC has been trying to impose their own master service agreement in the name of an SLA. Heavy debate on this took place on this topic with meetings of the MNO and the ICT advisor on the 15th of July 2019. Thereafter, the BTRC started the consultation process again, and I'll ask all the mobile network operators to provide feedback on the draft agreement prepared by the BTRC on the 20th of August. GP submitted its feedback and asked for the BTRC to set the minimum SLA, not a mandatory document. On the 29th of August 2019, the BTRC alleged that due to the non-cooperation from us, the operators, implementation of the tower service guidelines had been delayed. It asked for the tower operators and the mobile operators to jointly prepare a full-fledged agreement and submit it to the BTRC by the 5th of September. We denied those allegations. We have been following the guidelines issued by the regulator itself last year, and we asked the regulator to vet the submitted service level agreement submitted by E.co, documenting the relationship between us and them. On the 8th of September 2018, an application was filed in the existing writ that we have on this issue with the BTRC to allow GP to build 279 critical sites. The hearing on this application will take place as per the accommodation of the court. Sending a draft master service agreement to the mobile network operators and towercos, the BTRC invited them for a meeting on October 6th, where the BTRC shared the complete master service level agreement, including commercial terms. We reiterated our position that the guidelines indicate that this has to be a commercial agreement between an operator and a tower company. The meeting continued on the 7th, 9th, and 10th, and GP did not participate in order to comply with relevant laws and not to act in an anti-competitive manner. In that meeting, an SLA was agreed upon, but the general terms of a contract and conditions, the MNOs and the towercos could not reach an agreement in this area. I just want to make sure that you understand what I mean by this. There has been a tower guideline instituted last year. We don't like it because it removes our ability to build our own sites, but we have followed the letter of that directive, ran a competitive process. We picked an operator, developed the SLA, delivered the service level agreement to the BTRC, and instead of accepting ours, they've decided to build one that is less stringent and are proposing perhaps prices which will be more expensive. Next slide, please. Supply chain sustainability is really important for us. And as I travel to see analysts around the world, they never fail to bring up what is our position relative to these very important issues. So we take, as an industry leader, a special interest in SDG 10, which is about reducing inequalities. It's one of the global goals that is trending in the wrong direction. Inequality seems to be increasing in the world. But mobile is an opportunity to bring leveling technologies to everybody. We also know that it's important to it's important to equip suppliers with knowledge and tools that make sense for them and adds value for them. They produce so that they can produce results for us in the shortest possible time. It makes more sense when we share success stories, organize supplier summits and training sessions. It's easier to convince them to be compliant when they see their businesses growing and other businesses growing for the right reasons. This is something we feel profoundly in Grameenphone and in the whole group, that our job in markets like Bangladesh is to bring best practices, not only to our own company, but to the supply chain that we work with. Not only are we conducting regular trainings, but we conduct on-the-job trainings as well, and all our findings when we do inspections are closed within 30 days of discovery. Due to the vigorous due diligence that we follow with vendors, we have a safer supply chain, and we have no child labor ever reported in the last 2 years. We will continue to help our partners grow in an ethical and sustainable manner. With this in mind, I would like to introduce Jens Becker. You're meeting him for the first time. He is the new CFO. He joined in August, and he has a long experience with T-Mobile Poland and Deutsche Telekom. He's a German national. He joined us 8 weeks ago, and he will now proceed with the rest of the presentation. Jens, please.
Thank you, Michael, and good morning, everybody. So, let me start with giving you a snapshot about the Q3. We had a strong organic financial performance with continued growth momentum, especially on the top line, along with a healthy profitability. Subscription and traffic revenue posted a growth of 6.7% year-on-year, despite all the adverse impacts from the regulatory changes, namely the increase of the supplementary duty, which has been increased from 5 to 10%, the SIM tax increase from 100 to 200 taka, and as well the restrictions that has been imposed on us on issuing NOCs, non-objection certificates on importing telco equipment software, as well as on the tariff approval. This quarter saw a quite strong EBITDA margin of 61.8%, which is a 0.4 percentage points improvement against last year. On the EPS for this quarter, we stand at 5.38 taka. Year-to-date, EPS increased by 2%. On the CapEx side, we are with a CapEx to sales ratio now below 10%. Turning to the subscriber development, we currently have 75.7 million, which is 0.4 million net adds during this quarter that we saw. The subscriber acquisition had been negatively impacted by the increased SIM tax, which I mentioned before, the increase from 100 to 200 taka, resulting into a 0.9 million decrease in net adds compared to the last quarter, which had been 1.3 million. We also had a marginal decrease of 0.1 percentage points in subscription market share from last quarter as of August 2019, so not the full quarter, where we had now 46.5% versus 46.6% last quarter. Turning to the revenue picture. As you can see, we have a 6.6% growth in total revenue, which is entirely driven by the 6.7% growth in the subscription and traffic revenue, which had been partly offset by the continued decline of the interconnection revenue. On an underlying basis, we would say that on our growth in subs and traffic, so excluding all the unfavorable impacts of the regulatory changes, would be more on a 9% year-on-year growth organically. The growth in subscription and traffic revenue, which was 2.2 billion taka, was mainly driven by data with a share of 1.1 billion and voice of 0.9 billion. Data revenue contributed for 53% of the incremental revenue as a result of the continued 4G drive. Voice revenue had a 3.9% growth, which is driven by 6% increase in the subscriber base, which has been partly offset by a 3.2% decrease in the voice ARPU. Turning to the data side, on the data revenue, we had 17.3% growth in data revenue, which was mainly driven by the 11.8% increase in data users, with 4.3 million net additions in data users from last year. The number of data users end of the period for this quarter stood at 40.6 million. The number of respective 4G datas within was 11 million. So on the side, turning to the ARPU picture, we had a 1.5 year-on-year decrease in service ARPU, which was mainly driven by the lower contribution from voice and interconnection, and partly offset by a higher contribution from data. Excluding this interconnection effect, ARPU would have only slightly decreased by 0.6%. On the data side, the year-on-year data ARPU has increased oppositely by 3.3%, which is a combination of a 50.1% increase in the average megabyte per user from 1.8 or 1.8 against 1.2 gigabyte in average, and the decrease of 31.2% in the average price per megabyte. So turning on OPEX and EBITDA. OPEX for the quarter stood at 11.7 billion, where we see a continued focus from our side on the OPEX efficiency. So the year-on-year OPEX to sales improved by 1.4 percentage points from 31.9% to 33.3% compared to sales. On an underlying basis, the overall increase in OPEX was mainly driven by revenue growth and profitability, along with the network expansion, and then partly offset by efficiencies on the market spend and operational maintenance cost. On the EBITDA side, this gives us a 7.3% EBITDA growth on reported basis, which is a 0.4 percentage point improvement in EBITDA margin from 61.3% to 61.8%. Regarding our investments and the CapEx, we had continued investing in the 4G rollout and strengthens the existing network in Q3 2019. The CapEx for the quarter stands at 2.1 billion BDT. Nevertheless, the Q3 2019 CapEx has been negatively impacted by the BTRC's restriction on issuing the NOCs on importing telecom equipment, software, initiating new LCs, and release of already imported equipment from the port. So the major capacity expansion plan in Q3 got therefore deferred and delayed. On 4G related CapEx, that stood at 0.6 billion, with the covering now 69% of population as of Q3 2019. We had rolled out 1,812 4G sites and 246 3G sites in Q3. On the EPS and NPAT side, we had to post a decrease of 13.8% in the net profit after tax and the EPS on a reported basis, which is mainly due to one-off on the tax provisions. Nevertheless, on the year-to-date EPS, we stand with 18.75, with a 2% year-on-year growth that we have posted year-to-date. On the On the cash side, we have a 4.1 billion higher operating cash flow in Q3 in combination of a 1.5 billion higher EBITDA and 2.6 billion lower EBITDA compared to last year. And the net debt stood at 3.3 billion, minus 3.3 billion, a decrease in net debt from last quarter, mainly due to the 8 billion lower SDL and the 3.1 billion higher cash balance. So then on the last, from my side, the last slide, as you can see, posting our total investments into the community here. So since inception, we have 357 billion taka invested in total and made a payment to the National Exchequer of more than 730 billion taka, whereof 61 billion only in the last 9 months of this year. And I think with this, Michael, I finished this, so
why don't you
we're going to the
Q&A?
Q&A.
So I've got them here. The first question is for you. The effective tax rate is 57.2% in Q3 2019, and compared to 43.1% in the same quarter last year. Could you say why?
Yes, we usually make a review of all our risk, assess them properly, and came here with some issues on taxes to be solved. So mainly this is due to one-offs in the tax line.
Okay, good. IDL Cam, what are the challenges of leasing towers from a tower sharing license holder? What do you think are the positives and the negatives of leasing towers from the tower sharing license holders instead of building your own towers? First of all, we're not against tower companies. We think they're a good addition to the marketplace. It's helpful. Clearly, when you rent from a third party, you have to be careful about the cost side. We're very efficient when we build and operate our own towers, but we're unlikely to have the right to build more towers in the future. So it will be slightly more expensive, depending on the model we approve, to actually lease towers. In some cases, significantly more expensive. Our exposure is lesser. We already have almost 17,000 sites, so the need for future towers is relatively modest for us. The negatives, the positives, it's not CapEx, it's OpEx. Some people might think that's okay. And the operating side to this is we have to make sure that the service level agreements with the individuals who are supplying services to us in order to serve customers, that service level agreement has to be top notch. And it's a long-term engagement when we lease towers or sites on towers. It could be a 10 or 15-year contract. So the SLA is really, really important. This is why we spend a lot of time on this, and this is why we're so concerned about a weaker service level agreement being provided by the regulator instead of our long-term, well-established SLA, which in fact we had negotiated with a tower company already. So there are pros and cons. We can live with it, but it's something that we need to get right, especially on the service level agreement side. Given that the BTRC is not ready for a negotiated amount for the disputed amount, and the incremental news flow of appointing administrators to run the telco, what could be the way forward for GP? Let me kind of answer this in saying there is still scope for an amicable resolution. We believe that the appointment of an administrator would be catastrophic for the reputation of the country as a foreign direct investment source. It would be deeply damaging to the stock market. And I think many people are trying to find a way for that not to happen, including ourselves. So we will continue to engage with the regulator and other parties in finding a process for an amicable resolution. And we'll continue to reserve our right for now to go to the courts if we need to. The next question from the same.
I think it's just there was on the taxes some more. So we had one-offs on the tax line where we have taken the remedial actions and also the proper provisions. We are currently in dialogue with the respective authorities about this settlement in a very transparent and open manner. And here for any details, I think we refer this to the one-on-one discussions if you're interested in getting there some more insight.
Yeah. Let me also say that there was a court stay last week on Thursday for 2 months. We welcome that. Uh, the process from now on will be to determine if this injunction can hold. And on the 5th, there will be a first hearing on the actual civil case as well, the title suit. So, again, this is, as I've told many of you over the last little while, this is a difficult story to sort out. But I'm still quite positive that we will be able to get out of this with everybody relatively okay. Tax
Okay.
one-off, you asked that one?
Yes, this we already answered that. Data ARPU. I think we are focusing on the 4G data. It's a question around data ARPU, how to drive this, and we are focusing on the 4G site rollout, conversion of 4G SIMs, as well bringing the relevant products as well and value propositions to the market, like for instance Bioscope and those topics, and by this driving the data ARPU. Nevertheless, the market is still extremely competitive on that.
There's a rather interesting question that says, what part of the NBR and BTRC claim do you think is legitimate? How much are you ready to pay in order to fully settle and resolve the long pending matter? Of course, we're not going to answer this in this forum. We believe that it can be resolved. It has to be resolved in a transparent manner with our partners, and we have always paid our dues. We've always paid our dues. We are by far the largest taxpayer in the country. Our tax bill for the last fiscal year was higher than the 4 or 5 following companies combined. We're the largest VAT producer for the country outside the cigarette companies. So listen, this is something we know that we can get to, but we're not going to negotiate it this way. We're going to have a platform to do that. That's the main discussion we have with the regulator right now. Not the goodwill to solve this, but to find a transparent platform to do that.
But also to make sure we have disputed the entire amount and the entire demand as we have found it ungrounded and unjustified.
Yeah. This is not a set of 15 different demands. It's one big demand. And so that is contested right now. I think another question here is from IDL Cam again. We've been focusing on operational efficiency and delivering positive results through expanded EBITDA margins. How much room do you think there is for margin expansion? And what factors can you contribute to margin expansion in the future? Let me not kind of give you a forward-looking statement on what we think EBITDA will be in the future, but we do believe that there's still room for more efficiency and structural change. And this structural change we are preparing for right now, and I think the structural change will continue to protect the returns for our shareholders into the future. But we do not, and we do know that there's going to be additional costs on some side. We have to find structural changes to offset that. So I don't want to make a comment about what it'll mean for EBITDA, but it is something that we are looking at. And, you know, we're not satisfied with where we are yet. Can you answer the last one? The last question from USL is the elevated income tax expense entirely one-off, or should we expect elevated income tax rate in the next 2 or 3 quarters as well?
So first, of course, we don't give any forward-looking statements, but so for the Q3, the elevated income tax, of course, also comprises a huge amount as we have a profit increase. So it's the 2 components, basically the 2 components that are in there, the profit increase that we have and the one-offs.
Okay. Let's wait for a couple of seconds to see if anybody else has questions. We'll wait a minute. Going once, twice. Yeah. So let me close off by thanking Jens for your first call with us.
Thank you.
Secondly, we have a practice of being available for one-on-one calls with analysts or investors. So if you do have more questions, if you want to have a one-on-one call with Jens and Noreen on some of the details, please let Noreen know, and we'll avail that. We'll make that happen as quickly as we can. Oh, whoops. There's a couple of last-minute questions. Let me try to answer those. The NBR BTRC claim to be settled through discussion. Is there scope for a re-audit? for example, by one of the big four audit firms. Interesting potential solution. We think that would be a good idea, but that has to be mutually agreed. No, there's a question as well as to price elasticity on data. Yeah, I think there is opportunities for clubbing data and voice together. But we're not going to be discussing how those pricings work. But there is scope, there is elasticity. We're at the very beginning of the data journey in Bangladesh, and like any other market, over time, voice will become lesser than data, and we see that track happening with 4G over time. But we do have the ability to bundle packages together.